The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of Spaced Out Radio or Spaced Out Radio Limited is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised. Are you experienced?
Stop right there!
From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you, listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
They let us play with all our toys, they let us think that we're big boys, they let us make a lot of noise, but we ain't rule the world. They let us think we're Superman.
You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on iTunes and TuneIn. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show.
I try to act so cool, but you know I'm just a fool for you. I will stop till I reach the top just to be there with you.
Dave, oh Dave, are you playing with Bigfoot and aliens again?
Dad, you gotta stop haunting the ghost. It's scaring them.
Alright, seriously, put down the pointy sticks.
Okay! Game on!
Game on!
Game on!
The password is...
Alright.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio. Mr. Bumblefoot, Dave is ready for liftoff.
I try to act so cool, but you know I'm just a fool for you.
Seriously, Dave? Really? Aren't you a little old for a tinfoil hat?
Hello, Toby. Bye-bye. Love you. Bye-bye.
Please take your seat about way. We're with the entrance. It's clear for takeoff. Start. 2, 1. Boost ignition and lift off.
I'm such a lucky guy, 'cause after all this time, it's like the deeper I go, the deeper I fall. The deeper I go, the
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. It's good to have you along for the ride on this Thursday, October 5th. Friday, October 6th. If you're on the East Coast or across the pond, hope you had a great day and night. We are live right here in the Great White North on top of the mountains of central British Columbia as we are here 7 days a week for your listening needs. We welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of the Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. We are also live on spacedoutradio.com, Spreaker, KTLK, The Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas, the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Like our music? Then rock with us to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy and Sons of Apollo. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio. Now, we're all over social media. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, like Sailor, like Goddess Michelle, and more. You can also find me on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Listen to us on iHeartRadio in the United States. TalkStream Live. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download this show and others on iTunes. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. Now, if you want to take part in this show, I need you to do me a favor. You need to sign into one of the chat rooms, either on Revolution Radio, Spreaker, the UPRN chat room, or on Facebook at the SOR Space Travelers Club. Or if you're on Twitter, just use the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. I will get to your questions and comments in there as well. Now, if you head to our website for just $5 a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. You can also shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. Read The Encounter online. Check out my latest blog. And if you've had an experience you cannot explain, fill out an SOR Sightlines report. We also have great video footage from Tim Doyle from UFO Seekers and Leslie Mitchell-Clark's Contact TV. Tonight we get into a topic where we've never actually gone on this show. Hard to believe. It's only been 3 years. Well, nearly. As an internationally recognized author, teacher, and healer, Lisa Barnett is very well versed in the Akashic Records. With more than 20 years' experience in spiritual healing forum, Lisa found herself in the mid-90s being intimately summoned by the Akashic Masters to share their personal insights into her life and those of her clients. In 2005, she took a deep dive into the Akashic field, which led her on one of the most fabulous 10-year journeys. For this profound immersion, she was called to start the Akashic Knowing School of Wisdom and to create resources to bring clarity and healing for the ancient Akashic knowledge to a broader audience. So, is there something out there? Do the Akashic Records truly exist? We'll find out tonight. Lisa Barnett, thank you so much for being on Spaced Out Radio tonight. How are you?
I'm fabulous. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be the first to delve into this conversation about the Akashic Records.
Well, I'm not going to lie. I'm more an alien and Bigfoot guy. I really am. You know, and sometimes I've been known to wear a tinfoil hat. I have it right beside me here in SOR headquarters here in the middle of nowhere, British Columbia. But nonetheless, we are here, and we are going to learn about this tonight because I got to tell you, sometimes I like to be challenged, sometimes I like to learn, and this is one of those nights for me.
Well, that's very cool, and as I'm sure you'll hear more about as we converse tonight, the one of the reasons the Akashic Record Keepers said to me, start this school, they also said, you're more galactic, and you can help to connect up the kind of greater galactic star seeds to this information and this energy. So I resonate very strongly to some of the different, planets and dimensions like the Pleiades or Sirius, Arcturus, or, Orion. So, I've got my little galactic tinfoil hat over here too.
Excellent, excellent. So we're going to get along just fine because we will sneak in some aliens there, because when it comes to the Akashic, we're dealing with those from beyond anyways, and it always, romances me a little bit when we talk about those from another world. I don't know why, but it just excites me. So, and I've already gotten a comment in one of our chat rooms from John. He says, Dave, you need to do more shows on this stuff. So we'll definitely try it out. I'm already getting pushed. So pushy early, John. That is great. So I appreciate it. But let's take a trip down your memory lane and introduce you properly to our audience. This is something that you have been doing pretty much since 2005. Your website is akashicknowing.com. Were you always into the spiritual realm, or did you have to find out about it on a long, hard journey?
Well, let's just say I like to do it all. So I'm kind of one of those, we're common enough, but, not totally the norm. I was born very awake is what I would say. So my first memory is being 3 years old, looking at my hands and thinking, holy moly, I'm trapped in a body again. And it was not a happy thought, honestly. And I said to my mother, I want to go back. And I believe I kind of carried on this way for quite a while. And my brother, when we were grown up, he said, Mom and Dad always thought you were kind of crazy. And I thought, well, I imagine if your 3-year-old wants to go back and no one knows where back happens to be, there seemed to be a little screw loose. But the truth is that I could remember from that age not being in a body, and I knew that was way easier than being in a body. So I said, wow, really I made a mistake. Can I just go home and not do this, human physical thing? But it was too late for that. So here I am.
Now, when you were growing up with your own intuitive abilities, how did you figure out that you had them?
Well, having that memory kind of set me off, of course. And then when I hit around, and this is kind of something interesting I'm sure people can relate to, often when we hit puberty, really, so whatever that is, 12, 13, 14, the energy of the Kundalini can kick in. So really this is, a very strong energy that runs through our bodies. And Kundalini is really about awakening. So what that did for me was it kicked back my memory of, holy moly, I'm trapped in a body again. And I started to read everything I could get my hands on. So I'm 13, I'm growing up in California. It's the late 60s, early 70s, and I'm reading books like Journeys Out of the Body by Robert Monroe or Carlos Castaneda, and, and then, of course, the Beatles were studying with the famous guru Maharishi Mahesh Yogi and transcendental meditation, and, well, it was, the 70s in California, let me just say. So there was lots and lots and lots to learn. So I just studied from the time I could, read, really read books, like as an adult at 13, 14, 15, and went on to minor in philosophy in college. So it was a lifelong pursuit, and, the gifts, I saw ghosts and stuff like that when I was little, but I turned that off pretty quickly because that scared the heck out of me. So I kind of shut that down. Very, very just, what I figured everybody had, natural telepathy, kind of psychic abilities, relatively clairvoyant. So, but we just think that's normal because, well, that's what we have. Doesn't everybody have that, right?
I guess so, but for a lot of people who I have talked to on this show, they said that as teenagers growing up, when they're in that awkward stage of going through high school, and friends, popularity, everything that goes along with it, that they did go through some awkward stage until they hit about 19 or 20. Did you go through that as well?
I don't think so much. It was kind of strange because I don't know that I was ever very much of a kid. From the time I really can remember, just thinking, I don't really want to be here. I certainly don't want to be a child. Let's just get all this, childish stuff over with and get on with life, right? I've obviously come for a reason. So it wasn't, and again, it was California. And so, there was a lot of sex, drugs, rock and roll going on in the world and, plenty in my life. So I was busy between philosophy, esoteric stuff, and, and then the other.
So you were a hippie, is what it comes down to. You were a hippie.
Yeah, you could say that. You could say that. I went to college up at Humboldt in the 70s, and Humboldt stayed up in Eureka. Anyway, yeah, I was a hippie.
Yeah, see, I missed it all. All. Yes.
Oh, you're young.
I know. I'm only 44. My college days were filled with commuting because I went to school an hour out of town. So I was commuting there and back. Right? So that's just the way it is. I didn't, Now you're making me feel guilty here. Now you're making me feel guilty. Wow. The Beach Boys, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. This has taken an interesting turn very early here. We're not even 17 minutes into the show, which is excellent. So when you started opening up, a lot of people back in the 60s going into the 70s were trying new hypnotic type drugs in order to reach that point of Zen. Was that a path that you were on as well, whether it was acid, whether it was mushrooms, or anything along those lines?
Yep, I tried it all, I have to say, so it's a again, here I was a teenager in the 70s and 80s then, I was in my 20s then, but, experimentation, that was really the way. I mean, look, acid, and it was pure back then also, it was a pretty common drug from high school on, so, it was interesting to kind of have your psychic senses wrenched open in that sort of way. Wasn't my favorite. I found it quite exhausting, and it kind of drug on for too long in a day. But I don't know. They're just interesting experiences because even as 16, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old. To be able to have those very psychedelic experiences, and yet I could separate myself. So it's always sad when you hear stories of kids who never really came back from a bad acid trip, or the different things that happened with people and drugs in those days. But there was a part, I think, and this is, the way I really look at us, is that I think a lot of people are very multidimensional and very galactic, for lack of a better word for it, that we're really not all that human. And so we can take or understand or deal with those kinds of energies like acid or mushrooms differently than maybe somebody who was a little more human. So that was, my experience. I never went back and read the records of all those people to do a study on it, although kind of probably weirdly you could, because that's part of what I start to understand in reading the Akashic Records, is that each person's soul journey is unique. And that means that we've all lived in different places, planes, and dimensions. There are some people who mostly come to Earth, although I don't tend to know many of them or any of them, because it's just not the energy I run, right? We kind of meet up with people who are similar to us, and I would just say, being a little more of a galactic traveler type, that I know more galactic sorts. Stars, they call them more star seeds now, right? And I'm sure, I know I've had lots of different times and worlds, otherworldly experiences. I'm very Syrian, I would say, if you relate to the dog star.
Absolutely. And you know what? I think you're already making a bunch of fans in the chat rooms kind of jealous they didn't party with you back in the day. I will say that. We do have some jealous people right now. Jealous people that they weren't partying with you. But the whole point is, I mean, California was a real free love, free spirit type state. And technically, in some ways, it still is. So when you started putting, the freedom of living, the college lifestyle, the hippie lifestyle, and then started exploring your own spirituality, when did you start to find the results that you actually felt necessary to start believing? And what were those results?
Well, I was a born believer, so I never didn't believe because I had such a clear, solid memory of not being in a body. So I was actually raised, interestingly, by very agnostic parents. I made them take me to church because I felt like I was supposed to be spiritual. And, what do you know at 8 years old what spiritual is, right? So I made them take me to church for a while. My father was raised Jewish. My mother was raised Lutheran. And, the twain wasn't meeting there. They were both just like, we don't believe. So it worked out perfectly for me because it just means that I didn't end up, being really indoctrinated into any religion. It was more all my choice, all my, free will, free study, all the books I read, all the things I studied. But here's kind of the weird twist. Like I said, I had these experiences and was very, very conscious. But in my teenage years, my two very dearest, closest friends both died. And that left me feeling like, I really didn't want to be here, right? I wasn't all excited about it, went from the time I was 3, and now I really thought this was just pretty sucky, and I really don't think this is a good idea. But so I kind of threw in the towel spiritually. So by the time I was about 21 years old, I had said, you know what? I know I came to do something. I know I'm this aware and conscious for a reason, but I don't really care because you've taken my soul family away. You've taken my soul sisters away from me. And so I said, what do people come here for? And now in hindsight, as I say these things, this is literally what I'm thinking, and it sounds a little funny to be thinking that as a 20-year-old, but I had read so many things and was so very kind of conscious of all of these other worlds and dimensions. I'm like, well, why did I come here? What do people come to do on this planet? I'm not so excited about it. So I decided that the best answer I could arrive at was, make money, have fun, travel, make money. And so I actually pursued that for almost 15 years before I kind of came back around. So I actually, had a very good job in corporate America in advertising and, made good money in those days, lived in San Francisco. Again, it was still a pretty wild town in the 80s. And I figured, you know what, as long as I'm mad at the world and certainly whatever, mother, father, goddess, God, whoever you want to call it, very mad at them, I'll just have a good old time. So that went on for quite a while until I woke back up again. Sometimes we get kind of bonked over the head by something that gives us a wake-up call. And so, again, I actually came back around and had to go back to, oh, that's right, I know all this stuff. I guess I should do something with it. So
Were you always psychically intuitive too, or was that something that you had to work on?
Well, it was something that I went back and worked on because, I think part of what happened with all of those years in between with really seriously my anger at source, and really I shut down so many of my gifts that I just said, it's almost like if you could imagine taking all the wisdom you had from the time you were 3 until the time you were 20, all the books I read, all the studying I did, all the acid trips, whatever all it meant, I put it in an etheric shoebox and shoved it up on some, cosmic shelf, and I said, later, I am not doing this. So when I came back around at 30 and thought, it's time to, actually, there's kind of a funny story because I had really bad chronic fatigue, and I was going to an acupuncturist who said, well, I can heal you physically, but I can't heal whatever this whole other, drama, trauma, energy thing is. So go see my good friend who's an amazing clairvoyant psychic and see if she can help you out because there's some other big block going on here. So I went to see this amazing, wonderful psychic, and she looked at me and she said, you're a healer. And I said, no, I'm in advertising. And I kind of stopped and I was like, oh, you're telling me psychically I'm supposed to be a healer. You're a healer. I'm like, no, I'm in advertising. Anyway, but it struck a chord that it's like what we're looking for, what most of us are looking for is that memory. Right? Knowing, remembering the truth of who we are, not as, a person, but as a divine, wise soul, that we have these gifts and talents, that we know a lot more than we know right here in this life, that there's so much more to us than just, this. And that key got turned, that chord got struck, I woke up again and thought and realized, oh, that's right, that's my sole purpose, is to be a healer. And so I actually went back and started studying with this woman and studied with her for about 5 or 6 years until I kind of inadvertently, accidentally started to connect to the Akashic Records. They started to speak to me. And it took a couple of years before I figured out who the heck was, talking so loudly in my ear. And that changed my life when I figured out who I was talking to. Again, it changed my life again.
Did it feel natural for you, though, like it was a missing piece to your own personal puzzle?
Yes, that was huge. So, here I had kind of turned myself back into a muggle. I had gone from being this very awake, multidimensional child who could see ghosts and spirits to, throwing in the towel, telling Source to take a leap and going on my own, partying journey to coming all the way full circle to remembering the truth of who I was as a healer. And then the funny thing is that I studied intuitive psychic reading and energy healing. My teacher was an amazing energy healer and an amazing clairvoyant. Like, I've never met anybody as clairvoyant as her again in my life. But I wasn't that good of a psychic. I realized I'm a good healer. I'm just not a very good psychic. So that was always this kind of funny thing. But I had clients. I had a little healing center. What I would find is that occasionally, and at this point it was a very hit or miss just thing that happened occasionally, when I would come together with a client, and I realized later that that would have to be a client that had already a very high vibration, that our high vibration could boost us into this Akashic Records, into this field, this huge, expansive field of their soul. And so when they would ask me questions, I would get these big answers all about they have these soul contracts and they came to do this and this is the karma they want to work on and it's connected to this person and, like this, wow, it was like instead of looking at one picture, I was looking at the expanse, this infinite view of their soul. And every time that happened, I would just say, wow, that was phenomenal. And I did not know how to get there. And so for me, it was just a pure hit or miss thing. The right client would walk in the door, and we could, it would be like climb on a rocket ship and zoom to the moon. And otherwise, I was flying around in an airplane just above the earth in my kind of higher self, speaking to your higher self connection of energy, like in my kind of psychic energy and healing and stuff. But when I could connect with these other souls that were somehow in resonance with me and the Akashic Records, we'd fly to the moon, and I could really give them just phenomenal information. So it took me a couple of years to figure that out and realize I was accessing the Akashic Records inadvertently. And once I realized that, then I could start to do it consciously.
So since you weren't a very good psychic reader, how did you how did you be able to find your own balance, to find your own spiritual path then?
I think there's so many different levels and layers of, how we receive information. So I say I'm very clairvoyant, and the big joke is, and this is one of the things I always teach my students, is that clairvoyance doesn't look the way we think it looks for most of us. So most of us don't get big, colored movies. I get funky little out-of-focus Polaroid snapshots, but that's all I need to get the whole story. Okay? So I see a picture and I download the claircognizance, which is a clear knowing, which really comes more through the heart. And this is, for me, one of the gifts that I had that was very innate was to be able to connect heart to Akashic Records. That's really how we receive so much of the information through the Akashic Records is through our hearts. And so clairaudience, hearing, most of us are clairaudient in the level that it sounds like us, but the meaning and the words are not us. So again, students will often say, how can I tell the difference between what I'm thinking and what I'm hearing from the Akashic Records, because it sounds like my voice? And so I teach a lot of processes when I teach people to access their own Akashic Records so that they can start to differentiate the ego, the mind, and the daydream, and compared to the Akashic Records, compared to really receiving, channeling, getting answers to your questions from your record keepers. So lots of different levels and layers and processes. And what I would say is that for most of us, myself absolutely included, it's a process, right? So I studied with this amazing healer for 6 years, and I did tons and tons and tons of psychic readings and worked with other students and got healings and cleared and opened and moved and shifted until I could become open enough to start to receive this kind of higher, further away information. So the Akashic Records are stored in the information arm of Source, and most of our psychic energy reading is really taking place more in the body energy field, higher self to higher self. So it's a little more present right here in your aura, pictures in your aura, your higher self having information for the psychic. And the difference between that and Akashic Records is the Akashic Records are the records of your soul through time immemorial. It encompasses every lifetime here on planet Earth and every other planet, plane, and dimension, including angelic realms or elemental realms or, like I say, Sirius, the Pleiades, wherever we go. Places I can't name.
So let's get into it. Let's find out about the Akashic Records. There are a lot of people who are either unfamiliar with it or have heard the term, such as myself, but are not very familiar with what they are all about. I would love it if you took a couple of minutes to explain.
Absolutely. So the simplest way I can explain it is that it is the record of your soul from the time your soul individuates from Source until it returns home. So if you imagine that at some point a little piece of Source said, I would like to have an individual experience. I'm going to be a soul and I'm going on a journey. And from that moment forward, everything you do, every life, every thought, every feeling, every talent, everything is recorded in Source energy. So we have, and we often refer to it kind of as an old style, is that if you imagine that you have your very own library, in every book in that library would say represent a lifetime. So you've got thousands and thousands of books in that library, and you have your own personal librarians. There are beings of light that keep your records and are here in service just to you. So these beings of light, these Akashic record keepers or guardians or Akashic masters, there's actually quite a few of them. Each of us have quite a few of these librarians. And they've never been human. They're not ascended masters. They're not loved ones like somebody who's crossed over and died. They're not your great-grandparents or anyone else. They're literally souls who, instead of going on a big life journey like you and I have, they've stayed in the Akashic field to help guide and be of service to the souls that are on their journey. And then the interesting thing is that these souls will usually eventually go on their own soul journey because they are souls. They just haven't had life experiences yet.
So are you saying then that there are new souls and old souls?
Well, there are, yeah. So at some point, when a soul begins, it individuates from Source, it's a new soul, right? And it goes on a journey. The interesting thing is the Akashic Record Keepers tell us that most of those souls journey out around the universes, the galaxies, the planes and dimensions for a long time before they come to Earth. So most souls do not come straight to Earth. That's a rarity if they do.
So where do all these souls come from then?
That do come to Earth, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, they've just all been around already. I mean, wherever they could come from, other places, planes and dimensions. The truth is, I would say that we're all star seeds. We're all galactic. We're all actually ETs. We've all been that before, too.
Well, that would make sense as to why ETs come down here to check on us. Maybe we're still them, in a way.
Sure, there are relatives. We've lived there, and now we're having a human experience. So a soul is a soul. A soul is an infinite. I'm going to say piece of energy. There's got to be a better word for it, but that soul takes many, many, many hundreds, thousands of bodies. So whether it's a body in a human on Earth or it's a ET body on, Sirius or in the Pleiades, there's no reason that we don't do it all. That's what the Akashic Record Keepers say, that we do it all. And so I have past life memories of living on Sirius, of having been an ancient Egyptian, because they say that that's where the Syrians were the original Egyptian gods and goddesses who came vacationing to Earth and decided to stay. So I relate very strongly to the ancient Egyptians and to the dog star Sirius. And the other, so Sirius A, they say that's where a lot of the whales and dolphins originally came from. Sirius B is where the Egyptian gods came from. So, and they're still around. I don't believe that those places or planets are still intact, but the souls are. And so I do get that we have councils. There is a Sirian council. There's a galactic council. There's a Pleiadian council.
That's getting very heavy for a lot of people out there who are not familiar with this or may believe in just one source, that being God, that any soul goes through this entire process where you jump from lifetime to lifetime, which may not be here. It could be on a planet trillions of miles away. It could be, a dragonfly. It could be absolutely anything. So does that mean that the soul is actually limitless in the amount of lifetimes that it gets?
Yes, I really believe it is. So the interesting thing is we also have a lot of free will. And what the Akashic Record Keepers say is that it takes most of us, once we come to Earth. So the interesting thing is once we come to Earth, we come here because it's a very unusual place and dimension. We have these experiences like we don't have other places, such as sunsets, phenomenal food, making love, creating souls, right? Creating babies, being creator beings embodied. When we think about that fact, it's pretty phenomenal that we really are creator beings, that we can create life or bring life through our bodies. And these are experiences that we come to Earth to have because they're at best rare anywhere else in the galaxies. And one of the interesting things that happens, though, is because of the energy, because of the emotions, this creates patterns, and we get stuck in these cycles that many of us call karma. And the Akashic Masters always say karma is not anything that has to do with good or bad or right or wrong. It is an unfinished story or unfinished lesson. So we really come to experience the glory of Earth, and then we often get kind of trapped up in the emotions and some of the emotional pain and the drama and the, not happy things that happen here on Earth, and we kind of get stuck in these cycles. And so we come back hundreds and hundreds of times as we learn and grow and come to a place of awareness and awakening in which we can then really move on and choose to not come back to Earth again or choose to come back to Earth again if we want.
So where are these Akashic records? Where are they stored?
Well, they're stored in source energy, and since source is, of course, everything, and we are all part of that oneness, and we are all unified field of energy, right? I mean, even now quantum physics is proving these entanglement theories. They're realizing that we are all entangled, which is why energy healing from afar works, which is why, prayer works. This is why we can really be telepathic or psychic, because we're so much more multidimensional than these physical bodies make it appear, right? So it's all part of that unified field of one.
I get that and I understand that. I guess I'm just having a hard time comprehending that these so important records are just sitting in the middle of nowhere inside an energy source that just floats around the entire universe that anybody can open.
Well, there's your trick, right? I don't know that anybody can open them.
I'm still trying to figure out where they are. I'm looking for a library here, or some universal Vatican that has them under lock and key.
So I have all sorts of, kind of interesting stories down that road. But so one of the other, so the beings of light that keep our records, I often just call them the record keepers because that's just an easy, name. The record keepers are pure love. They're because they're pure, still pure souls. So they're also very funny. So what they said to me the other day is they said, here's a good way to explain it to people because, now we're in a much more modern day. People don't go to the library and read books that much anymore. So just imagine that when you were a baby, that they implanted a little GoPro camera in your forehead, and everything you ever did, everything you saw, everything you said, your first steps, your first word, everything was recorded in that movie camera on that GoPro. And every day your mother would upload it to the iCloud, and all of your videos of your whole life were stored in the iCloud. Now, tell me where the iCloud is, right?
I have no idea.
Right? But this is really the same kind of concept as the Akashic Records. So everything you've ever been or done in your life is kind of uploaded and stored in the Akasha. And interestingly, Akasha is a Sanskrit word, so East Indian word for sky or ether. So the iCloud is a real good sort of, parallel concept, really, when we think about it. So, we're taking, and as we know on the Internet now, a video can go out on the Internet, go viral, and you can't ever get it back. And this is really the same thing with us as souls. Everything we've ever done is stored. They are really forever, for eternity. And it's accessible.
So who goes into these Akashic Records? Like, I just can't go to, the local corner store and open it up, and I'm not trying to be sarcastic when I say that. Part of my job on the microphone is to try and be somewhat remotely funny at times. Most of the time it doesn't work. But, who can open these? Do you have to be religious? Do you have to be spiritually inclined? Can somebody who's skeptical open them? Can a Satanist open it? Can a Muslim open it? Help me out here.
I would love to. So here's what they say. The Akashic Records are part of the energy of Source, and for thousands and thousands of years, humanity had relatively easy access to these records. Now, when we think back a little bit historically, we have to get far enough back, kind of past the wars, kind of past 2,000 or 3,000 years ago. But people tended to be more spiritual. There were also, look at all the pictures of angels and fairies. People prayed to the sun to the moon to Gaia to our earth to... There was a lot of rituals. There was a lot of openness and connection. So energetically, we were naturally, innately more connected, more multidimensional. We expected to see fairies or angels. We expected to be helped and supported by those angels or fairies for them to, so there was a lot of belief and ritual. And so a lot of this information was much more readily accessible because we felt differently about it. Now, when more of the modern religion, somewhere around 2,000 years ago, when that started to come in much stronger and it became rules and we were, running out and we were, killing all of the heathens and the people believed in other anything outside of, the one God, we started to close down. We started to believe that we no longer had access to God or to Source or to angels or fairies or our own wisdom. We closed down. We even closed our own intuition down because we were told by many religions, by many churches, by, the dogma that said, you have to come through us to get to God. And so we said, okay. And so the whole paradigm shifted very drastically, and we found ourselves heading into the Dark Ages. There were so many more wars. There was a lot of fighting and battling around lands and gold and money and power and, kingdoms. And at that point, somewhere around 1000 AD, about 1,000 years ago, we call it the Dark Ages in history, the Akashic Records were being accessed by people in order to win wars and find gold and steal people's goodies. And the energy of the records were pulled away from Earth. They raised the vibration so it wasn't as easy for everyday humans to access that information anymore because we were misusing it in order for our own good, for our own gain, right? So not only were we creating, karmic cycles that we've been stuck in for 1,000 years, we also lost easy access to the greater multidimensional kind of spiritual worlds that are natural and around us. And now the good news is that's coming back. The vibration of the planet is raising so that it becomes easier for us as humans to raise our vibrations and to access our own intuitive knowingness and our own guidance, our own higher self, and also start to learn to access our personal Akashic Record wisdom and guidance.
So when it comes to the Akashic Records, and we only got about 3 minutes here before we got to go to our first break, a very fast hour here on Spaced Out Radio. What is on them? What is on the Akashic Records? Is it like a criminal record where, you pull a profile and that's where everything we've ever done or said is recorded on there?
I think that we all have our own little images. I go with a little library. So if I do a guided meditation for people, I would lead you up these beautiful white marble steps into this big old stone library with big gilded doors, and you would go in, there would be a fire in the fireplace, and you could take out a book that would be about a specific lifetime, and you could read that book and learn about who you were in that life, and the gifts you had, and the work you did, and the, maybe the karma you created or the soul contracts you had. So if you've lived 400 lives, you would have 400 books with all of that information stored. So we'll probably have to finish answering this when we come back. But when I do Akashic Record readings for my clients and they say, what is blocking my ability to make money, what is stopping me from being abundant, I go into your records and say to your record keepers, okay, show us what is stopping this person from receiving the abundance of the universe. And they will give me 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 levels and layers from different lifetimes, vows of poverty, vows to not be rich again, ancestral lineage energy.
In depth with that, if you mind.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's why I just was like, that's kind of a quick condensed. It's all there. And a lot of it is, we can talk about this, how we ask the questions, what kind of information we're looking for. So, yeah, absolutely. There is so much in our Akashic Records.
Well, we're soon going to find out. We're going to find out more, as Lisa Barnett is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Her website, which I highly recommend you go to, akashicknowing.com. Once again, it's akashickknowing.com. If you don't know how to spell Akashic, it's AKASHIC. And Lisa's going to be with us for one more hour, possibly two. We're going to try and extend this to hour 3 if we keep her having fun. I'm thinking we may have to go back to the 60s and 70s for that, because it sounds like she had a blast during that point in time. Lisa's book, From Questioning to Knowing, 73 Prayers to Transform Your Life. You can find it online, bookstores. I highly suggest you get that as well. We're going to be learning more about the Akashic Records right after this on Spaced Out Radio. We're going to hop out for a short break. When we come back, more Akashic Record talk, and we will get to your questions as well. Remember, hour number 2 is where we start pushing out the questions. So we'll be right back. I'm your host, Dave Scott. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. Talk to you on the other side.
365 days a year, we're in the field, investigating UFO sightings, talking to alien abductees, and visiting secret military locations like Area 51. We're UFO Seekers, official partner of Spaced Out Radio. Follow our daily search for the truth at ufoseekers.com or like us on social media. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with MUFON Canada, we're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spaceoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spaceoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Want to learn more about aliens, cover-ups, conspiracies, cryptids, and the paranormal? All you have to do is tune in S4 as we take over the Spaced Out Radio night, starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, each and every Saturday night, right after Spaced Out Saturdays. Hi there, this is Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. Join me, Corey Ruiz, and friends as we discuss the hot topics of the night. It's fun, entertaining, and as dark as the night. Find us at spacedoutradio.com.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from your Four Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
Want a place to share your experiences without feeling judged? We have the place for you. If you've experienced sightings or contact with ETs, ghosts, cryptids, or UFOs, and you'd like someone to confidentially look into the matter, just fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Our goal is to help you get the answers you need to the experiences you've had with our professional team of researchers. Your information stays 100% confidential. The SOR Sightlines report. Fill out your experience today only at spacedoutradio.com.
Psychic Sundays, spiritual communication, ET contact, Sasquatch in your backyard. We will have it all on Cosmic Passport with me, Elizabeth Anglin. Each Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, at spacedoutradio.com, I will take you on a journey of enlightenment. The goal is learning from the soul on out. We'd love it if you joined our experience, Cosmic Passport, heard Sundays at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza, and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest, from Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
Welcome to Spaced Out Saturdays with me, Dave Cruz from Beyond the Strange. Our weekly feature on spacedoutradio.com will take you around the world discussing everything from the paranormal to the latest conspiracies from the top guests in their fields. We won't leave any story uncovered. Spaced Out Saturdays at spacedoutradio.com starting 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, it's the first Friday of the month, which means it's time for R. Keith Andrews and the E.T. Connection. We will get to R. Keith tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in in Noonan, Georgia, home of the Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and over 160 countries around the world. Great to have you with us as well. We are also live on KTLK, The Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Not seeing Bill Cardwell for a password here. We might be getting a night off from the password. This is unexpected. Don't know where Bill is. Bill usually sets a password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. We're going to have to discipline him for this one. Hopefully he'll have one for hour number 2. Hey, we're all over social media. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at Spaced Out Radio. Use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio. If you want to connect live with me during the show as well, you can give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. Also, join us in the SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat during this show. We're also on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR. You can listen to us on iHeartRadio in the United States. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download this show and others on iTunes. We're on TalkStream Live as well. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. We are also having some rock and roll on there. Rock out to some Bumblefoot. Read the Encounter online. Shop at our Spaced Out Radio store as well. You can watch UFO Seekers and Contact TV videos all you want. Everything at spacedoutradio.com. Tonight we are talking about the Akashic Records. Lisa Barnett is our guest. She is a researcher. Her latest book, From Questioning to Knowing, 73 Prayers to Transform Your Life. I highly suggest you check that out. Her website is akashicknowing.com. Lisa, welcome back.
Thank you. Happy to be here with you.
Well, we're glad to have you here as well. You're a lot of fun tonight. You really are. You really are. Yeah, we'll accept that. We're going to go along with that because, well, let's face it. You started off on a really good note telling us about how you lived the 60s and 70s. It was fantastic. We're still, my audience in the chat rooms are still buzzing about that, which is a good thing. I want to get more into the Akashic Records because this is something, and I got to admit, it's something that I haven't really studied in all of these topics that we have done on Spaced Out Radio. It's not that I haven't done it on purpose. It just never came to me until we decided to book you because this is the direction that we have never gone on this show. So right before the break, you started breaking down the Akashic Records and what they are all about. And where they're in the middle of energy, which I'm still struggling with, and I'm sure a few people are, rather than being in some vault somewhere on some mystic planet, or maybe up in heaven, or whatever people want to believe. But when you learned about the Akashic Records, did it change your belief style in life after death?
Well, it didn't for me because, like I was saying, I was born kind of awake. So my first memory was, I'm trapped in a body. I can remember being this etheric being. Actually, the image I had at 3 years old was something like, here's these 3 little light beings having a conversation, and they're not having to move their mouth. They don't have to use these words. Now, in hindsight, now I could say, well, that would make sense, because when you're 3 years old, you're learning to talk. I was probably trying to get my mom to make me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or something really, really important, and I couldn't get the words out because I was 3. And, and I thought, this is for the birds. I want to go home. So, for me, I just always had that feeling, memory, belief, always, that this is one stop, out of thousands. And really, a life is pretty quick when you look at, the infinite concept, the concept of infinity. And then we could get very esoteric and confuse ourselves with the fact there is really no time and space, so it's all happening at the same time. And that's one I completely and utterly believe and also can't wrap my brain around. So even though I know I can heal a past life and see it change that person in this life, so to me there's proof that I can move outside of time and space and heal energy or move energy, or that it's all happening at the same time, so it doesn't matter. I'm not going outside of time and space. I don't know. But yeah, I kind of get that. iCloud, time and space, there's concepts I don't believe our brains were made to understand.
I get that, but when it comes to the Akashic Records and everything being on this, I mean, to me, it sounds almost biblical that everything is written down. You know, if you're a believer in God or religion, it sounds very much that way, that you have a beginning, you have an end. God knows when that is going to happen. He knows your thoughts. He knows your ways. He knows what you're going to do, what you're not going to do, when you're going to screw up, when you're going to be good and help people, so on and so forth. It sounds like, to me, in hearing you define what they are, that is what the Akashic Records are. Am I wrong here?
A little bit, yeah. You know, if I'm being totally honest. So here's the way they explain it to me, to us, is that there is no predestined life. Your life is not predetermined or predestined. So, no one knows what you're going to do. One of the reasons we happen to particularly love planet Earth is we have this free will thing going on here. So, they say that before every life, we write a soul plan. But it's just a plan. I could write a business plan and, you know, throw it in the garbage tomorrow. I could say, I'm going to spend $100 a month on advertising, and I could go and, you know, blow my budget for the year in a day, right? I mean, so this is the free will piece. We can make a plan. We don't have to follow it. That's the interesting thing about Earth. So, that all said, what we do, the big picture is, we do want to learn and grow and expand, and I'm going to say become more free. So as we become more conscious and more multidimensional expansive, we actually become more free. We untie ourselves from emotions, from group beliefs, from group thoughts, from thinking that things are right or wrong, that, you know, that we can judge something as good or bad, and that makes it so. So as we become older souls, as we have more and more and more lives, as we have these experiences, we are able to come to a point where we are becoming kind of conscious, ancient, wise souls. And these are the souls that we would consider enlightened or awake. So when we come to a life, before we come into a life and we write a soul plan, this is the way the Akashic Masters describe it to me. And of course, again, you know, just because they're funny, they think stuff is funny because, you know, they don't take anything very seriously because it's source and it's all love and it's all good. So they say, imagine that you were going back to Earth, and so you gather all of these souls together that are also coming back to Earth soon. So imagine here you are, like in a high school gym, right? The little squeaky wood floors and the wooden bleachers, and there's 1,000 souls stuffed in there with you, and everybody's going back to Earth, and we're all writing our soul plan. So I stick my arm up and I say, hey, you know what? I think I want to get married. Who wants to marry me? And I might have 3 or 4 or 6 people say, I'll marry you, right? And I write 6 soul contracts. Now, one person says, remember we had that life and it was great. We had so much fun. It was just really a hoot. Let's do that again. I'm like, yeah, great. Let's do that again. And some other soul comes up and says, remember that lifetime we had together and I drowned and we were only married for 6 weeks and that was a drag. How about if we get married again and we have like a whole life? And I'm like, that sounds like a good idea. Let's do that. So now I've got a half a dozen soul contracts to get married. Now, obviously, I'm probably not going to get married 6 times, but the reason we do this is we write these plans is we're not exactly sure when or where we're going to end up on Earth and when or where those other souls are going to end up on Earth. So we're making a plan, and then again, there's free will and human will and human choice, and all of this kind of comes into play. So, as a rule, most of us are pretty good at managing to find and get together with one of those people that we have a soul contract with. And if we find the one that was for that happy, great relationship, yay you. And if you found the one where you wanted to finish that karma because there was a whole lot of abandonment and alcoholic issues in there, well, that could be a little bit, more of a challenging relationship. But this is what karma is about. This is about the learning and the growth and the love and the support. So that's all built into our soul plan.
I love the comment by Lulu Bell at #SpacedOutRadio on Twitter. Master Soul Plan, I would like a redo. And there are so many people out there who would like a redo on what is going on in their life. I don't remember a time where I have seen so many people hurting. Hurting financially, hurting emotionally, stressed out, depressed, anxious, having troubles with their spouses. That's not the way we envision life as we grow up. I mean, sure, we all get this picturesque, ideal that we're supposed to get married, we're supposed to have 2.1 children, 1 dog, 1 cat, picket fence in a subdivision where every Sunday is lawn mowing day because it never rains. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody has that vision. And when I say everybody, I use that very loosely. So at what point, when we see what people are going through today, is that from source or the records, or is that because we have free will and people are making some very wrong choices in their day-to-day planning?
Yeah, I'm going with the latter. And so there's a bunch of different things that happen. So we are never being punished. So, God is not going to rain down a punishment upon us. Part of our choice, part of the reason that we come here is about free will, which means we have that choice. Now, a bunch of challenges come into play because we have collective consciousness, collective beliefs, collective unconscious beliefs. We take on the pain and the trauma and the depression of other people around us. Very few people actually are ever taught about boundaries or owning your own space so that you can feel what it feels like to be you and not what it feels like to be the other 20 people around you. If that makes sense, right? So there are all sorts of really simple tools that the Akashic Records are giving us, and this is one of the reasons they actually asked me to write a prayer book. And I said, what? Really? My first book is The Infinite Wisdom of the Akashic Records. It teaches you actually how to access your own Akashic Records. And they're both on Amazon. So I wrote this first book, which is like, here, let me teach the world how to access the Akashic Records. That's what the masters asked me to do. That's what the record keepers asked me to do. And then the second book, they said, let's write a prayer book. And I'm like, really? Are you kidding? And they said, well, there are great challenges in the world, and humanity needs simple tools, and we will give you healing prayers and imbue them with Akashic energy to help heal people with ease and grace. And I said, okay, I'm in, right? I said I would do this. And so there's some simple tools, everything from a prayer for world peace, which is a huge one that is so important in our world right now. There's a prayer to release blame. There's a prayer to clear guilt. There's prayers for us, to release jealousy and competition, disappointment and judgment. And there's prayers to help us clear ancestral energy. So we're at a very phenomenal time in history, according to the record keepers. We went through kind of this precipice. I'm being told daily, because I pretty much ask them again every day, is the vibration actually raising on the planet? I mean, it's a mess out here. And they say no matter what it looks like, the vibration of the earth itself and humanity, the vibration of humans, is raising. Our consciousness is expanding and growing and raising. And even though it doesn't look like it when you look at our country, not your country, our country, and, and our government and all of these different pieces.
The family's home. The family's
coming home.
We knew that was coming. We had been prepped for that moment during the break. Right. The minute the dog starts barking, we know the family's home. Wonderful.
That's right. That's the daughter with purple hair came home.
Nice. My daughter has pink hair.
Oh, I have one of those too. I have identical twins. One's pink and one's purple.
Nice. Nice.
It's handy that they color-coded themselves. It makes life easier, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So anyway, so the good news is that no matter what it looks like to us and no matter actually what it feels like to us, the vibration is raising and we are moving into a positive place. And what they also say is that in order to create a new world, we have to dismantle some of the old garbage first. And that's literally what we're seeing happening. So the ugly, the nasty, the trauma, the weather, it's all coming up to be seen, acknowledged, released, changed. And I just keep praying that we do this really quickly, like in the next year or two. Like, let's get it done now. We've been working at this for thousands of years. Let's make it happen. And there's thousands and thousands and thousands of light workers on the planet right now who are holding that energy with the intention to help humanity awaken, to move to peace.
Do you mind if I get to some questions from our audience?
No, sure.
Wonderful. This one comes from the Revolution Radio chat room. This is Olive, and he is asking, do you agree, Lisa, that the records of our life is in the sixth heaven when we die or rest, go into the sixth heaven where archangels show the record of our life here and now, so to go higher than this duality world to the greatness or of the first cause, small one, go... Okay, your question has to be clearer than that, man. Seriously. Trying to read this. All right. Do you believe, though, that the records of our life go into the sixth heaven when we die or rest to get reviewed by the archangels? Let's just keep it at that.
Okay. So I'm going to simply answer yes. And the interesting thing that I find is that I believe that these things are really so much bigger and more expansive than we can understand. So my experience of opening the Akashic Records is stepping into the void. I don't go to the sixth heaven to read a book. I step into a void void. It's like a big black space, like the infinite void. And I wait for an answer to my question, or if I'm working with a client, I wait for an answer to their question. So I do believe that when we cross over, that we are met by the angels, that there is a conscious kind of life review, that we say, wow, let's see, I did this, I learned that, that's great, whoops, I didn't get around to that, maybe we'll do that next time, let's make a new plan. But I actually think that we also get to, rest and enjoy the expanse of these worlds between.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say yes, kind of.
All right. Let me get to another question here. And this one comes from Robin in the SOR Space Travelers Club, who is asking, I have been reading that there was a place named Lemuria, and that all of us were once Lemurians on our planet, and that area got destroyed, and we became Atlanteans. Would you know anything about that?
I would. It's not quite that linear, that there were two places and dimensions, that one was Lemuria and one was Atlantis. They're both kind of in a similar time frame, but different. Many of us have been one or the other. We didn't go from one to the other. Not all of us. It was like one jumbo island. It would be like one continent. So not everybody who's here now was there then. But some of us were, and many of the light workers were. And both Atlantis and Lemuria were very advanced civilizations. We had, amazing technology that basically went wrong, and we misused it. And in both worlds, we destroyed the worlds. So most of us are one or the other. There's a belief that the Lemurians are more from the dog star Sirius, and the Atlanteans are more Pleiadian. So, there's lots of kind of different thoughts on the subject. And, of course, because this is, 25,000 to 50,000 years ago, they're a little tricky to confirm. But that's the way I get it, is that many of us were one or the other, if we've been coming to Earth for that long. And we have some great wisdom and some great gifts and talents and ancient technology that many people would like to bring forward again. So that's a lot of star seeds, and the ancient more Lemurians or Atlanteans are coming back to Earth now to help to bring some of this technology to the planet to help the Earth.
All right, let's get to BTO's question here. Are the Akashic Records based only within this universe?
No. What I get is that everything has a record, right? So the planet itself has a record. Your soul group has a record. You have a soul group, too. You have a big soul family. And everything you've ever been or done, wherever you've ever been, has been recorded in that record. So I believe, the way I understand it from the record keepers, that your records are very expansive in that way. And, some people can connect further back into that kind of information. I would say, I can remember some of these Syrian lives, some ancient Egyptian lives. I know that I lived in, I can remember vaguely Arcturus, some of the galactic gateways. I don't have a good, clear memory about them, but I do know that they're also recorded in there.
Let's get to Corrine's question here. And she is asking, Lisa, no disrespect, but how do you know what you are saying is the truth?
Well, there's a good question for you. I don't. Honestly, I'm not going to make up some. I'm not going to tell you that I know the truth. All I can tell you is that I know from my experiences for the last life. I'm 60, so right. So I've been having these kind of experiences for 57 years, 58 years now. And I know that when I work with my clients, and I've worked with thousands of people around the world and taught thousands of people also around the world to access their own records, that they feel the energy shift, they can experience moving into the Akashic field when I teach them the sacred keys to open those doors, that clients experience shifts in their energy and transformation in their life from the healing, the information, healing, clearing work that we do in the records. So that's really all I can say. It's all very, it's experiential proof. There's no way that we can ever really, prove the truth. What's the truth, right?
I can understand that. The second part of Corrine's question, how do you then implement this knowledge into your own life?
Well, I use it every day. So in my life, I work with clients all the time, and I teach classes. So just before the radio show, I teach a course which is called Akashic Career Mastery. I actually teach people to access the records for clients and teach them to really be able to use this as a business if they choose. I teach people to do it for themselves. So I work in the energy of the records and teach all these people how to do healing through this Akashic divine energy. And I open my own records all the time and say, what's my next step? I channel the books through the records, so both books that are written, the record keepers speak to me, and they say, okay, time to write the next book, like I was saying, and they were like, oh, the next book is a prayer book, really? So I use them, in all ways. I've asked all about my soul contracts with my children and my husband and my pets. My little dog has been with me in many different lifetimes. My cat, not so much. She is more connected to my husband. She's more his than mine, So we really work. I work with this information because it's daily guidance. You can go so far as to use it to support your business, to heal pain and trauma, childhood, trauma, whether it's abandonment or abuse or health or, so we can really use this information that's in the records to support you in your life now. It's not just kind of woo-woo esoteric like, what do I care who I was, 500 years ago? I don't care. The reason that it becomes important to maybe care about some of this is that life 500 years ago led you to create a karmic pattern that you're still trying to work through now. And when you understand that karmic pattern and what happened in those lives 500 years ago up until now, it's much easier to unravel that pattern and to heal it and move on and get unstuck. So a lot of what we do in the records is to ask questions about what's blocking me, what's holding me back, what's keeping me from moving forward. Why am I struggling? Why am I, why can't I make money? Why am I feeling all this emotional pain? And there's tons of answers about all those kinds of things in your Akashic record.
Excuse me, I had to cough there. When it comes to karma, how does karma get involved with this? Because I think there's a lot of people out there who aren't sure exactly how karma can affect everyone.
Right. So the way that the Akashic record keepers talk about karma is about really it's connected to your soul growth. It's an incomplete lesson or pattern. So here's an example. So imagine a couple hundred years ago in another lifetime, you were you worked in a little shop. You worked for a person. You made hats, and you sold hats for somebody who had a little hat shop. And every once in a while, someone would come in and, they would give you cash and you'd slip it in your pocket. And so you were just taking a little cash under the table and you figured it wasn't such a bad deal and you were making the hats anyway and it was your hard work and the owner of the shop would never know. So, there you are kind of stealing a little bit of money. And then the owner catches you one day and fires you, and you go off, and now you can't get another job because everybody's heard that you were stealing, and you blame all of this on the owner. So now you have been out of integrity. You've taken something that was not really rightfully yours, and instead of kind of coming to that conscious knowingness that you would say, okay, I made a mistake, I made a bad choice, I'm really sorry, that was not very smart of me to take your money, and I apologize, and, let me see if I can work my, way back into the good graces and get another job. Instead, you choose to blame someone else for your misfortune, and you go off and you're so angry and you can't get another job and you start drinking too much and life goes to hell in a handbasket, and before you know it, you're living on the street and dying of, TB or something like that, right? Now that is a not very pretty karmic pattern. And you're not being punished for being bad because you stole money. What's happened is your beliefs and the way you've looked at life has led you down a road that's really gotten worse and worse and worse until you actually died from that whole, kind of downturn of energy. Now you die, and then you say, okay, next time I'm going to go back and I'm going to fix that. I'm going to learn that lesson. I'm not going to do that again. But, of course, we come here into a human body and we don't remember anything. So, maybe we're in maybe we have the hat shop and somebody who's working for us starts, taking some of the money and, kind of stealing from us. And so there we realize someone's stealing from us and we have a choice. Now, we're on the other side of this karmic pattern. We do both sides of every story. It's part of the growth. Again, it's part of the soul growth. So I might say, I see this person is, kind of misguided, and I have a conversation, and I say, I notice this money is missing. I believe that this is always happening on your shift. Are you taking the money? And the person says, yes, I am. I'm really sorry. My daughter was sick, and I needed extra money, and, And you say, okay, let me give you a second chance. So now you are being conscious. You are healing this karmic pattern by getting conscious, understanding this person has a challenge, having a conversation, communicating, being a compassionate soul, and in the end you work this whole thing out. You give them a little raise. They never steal from you again. They're the best worker you ever have because you've been kind and compassionate and understanding. And that whole karmic pattern is now complete, right? So that can be an example of karma. It's not that you end up sick on the street and that's your punishment. It's about learning and understanding forgiveness and compassion. That's what we come to learn. And that's part of, what we're needing to awaken to again as a world, as a society.
I can understand that, but there are so many people who are living a good life. They mean well. They treat people with respect. They open up the doors for little old ladies, going into the grocery store. They do everything they can. Yet there always seems to be this black cloud hovering over them, whether it's drama, whether it's, they can never catch a break financially, whether it's they lose their job every 2-3 weeks. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of people who are not understanding where all this karmic resistance is coming from. And that is happening on a daily basis. And people are getting tired of it. How do you deal with that?
Well, honestly, it really is so complicated. And one of the reasons it's complicated is that most of us here have had at least, 2, 4, 6, 800 lives. So I shared, a small karmic pattern that happened in 2 lives. But for most of us, that karmic pattern of stealing and forgiveness might take you 10 lives. And so it takes us a long time to work through both sides of the pattern. And because we've been stuck for the last 2,000 years in some very dark, dark energy, there's been very little light on Earth, hence the Dark Ages, right? We've had a huge, huge power struggle. We lost our masculine-feminine balance that used to be much more prevalent on Earth back BC. So there's also some very large soul contracts that have to do with rebalancing masculine and feminine energy. That means that men in power and warriors in countries all over the world are going to have to change their mindset to open their hearts and to stop trying to kill everybody for transgressions or whatever the heck they're thinking, right? And women need to be able to step into their power and stand up and remember the truth of who they are as divine creator beings. So it's easy to say that, and it's very hard to do because these are patterns that have been going on for the last 2,000 years or longer, right? So they're huge group contracts and they're personal contracts and their personal karma and their societal soul contracts. And they're painful. And that's the really sad thing. And I work with clients every day who come with, very sad, painful stories of sexual abuse, of physical abuse, of emotional, mental abuse, of abandonment, of alcoholism and parents who are alcoholics, and really, on and on. And when we look at it in the records, what I see is often we can look at some of the soul contracts we've written, the things that we've wanted to do in this life. And what I'm seeing right now in the world is that there's so many light workers, so many really very powerful souls who have come to Earth to make a difference, and we've taken on these huge soul contracts that are really challenging, like around all of this, balancing male-female energy. That means that you're often in some kind of painful, abusive, unbalanced relationship with your parents, with your spouse, with your children, right? As we're healing ourselves, we're healing the world. But, of course, it doesn't happen overnight. And so I believe we're hitting kind of a pinnacle of this energy. And what we're all working towards is to become more aware, to raise our vibrations, to do healing for ourselves, to be the love, to be the forgiveness, to be the compassion, so that we can flip the energy, do a 180, and go from top-heavy, dark, angry, negative energy to the light, the love, the compassion, the forgiveness, the high vibrations of the world becomes the bigger energy on the planet. So that's what we're all working at, and we're kind of seeing it in a sense, I would say, some of the worst of it right now. Because as they've often said in so many, mystical writings, it is always darkest before the dawn. We're hitting this pinnacle peak. And we thought maybe in 2012 that we might all die, that might be the end of the world. But we actually moved through a doorway and have moved further towards the galactic center. And there are more people awakening every day. I have new people coming to me every day who say, I just woke up in this last 6 months. I just kind of got what spiritual is, and I'm 53 years old or, whatever. So that's the good news. And the sad news is that there are so many people who are having this experience. And again, so this is the reason that they gave us the prayer book to help to just raise our vibration, hold a new space, be able to hold a little more self-love for ourselves, a little compassion for ourselves, a little forgiveness for ourselves. Because when we heal ourselves first, that ripples out. It's the pebble in the pond that ripples out into the world.
That was beautiful. Very poetic. Very poetic. I want to just ask you in regards to that, though, do people have that free will, then, to change the path? Because so much of what we hear is about free will, yet if it's already written in the Akashic Records, is there really free will?
Yeah, always free will. They always say nothing is written in stone. So you write as a matter of fact, I burn a lot of contracts. So when I go into the records for my clients and they say, is this soul contract with this person done? What was this contract about? And the Akashic Masters will say, yes, it was, it was a shorter contract about, whether it was about having children or having a business or having a partnership, learning something, learning a lesson, finishing some karma, having an experience, and it's done. They literally will burn these old contracts that are complete, so it frees us up to move forward. So yes, that is free will. That is choice. And so the big piece is to start to become conscious of what's the highest and best choice that I can make for myself now, where I am now, and to start to move out of the old patterns, the old beliefs, and a lot of the stuff that we're often stuck in or blocked around is some of these collective contracts or these old patterns or these old beliefs. And so one of the things that I teach my students when I teach them how to access their own Akashic Records is how to clear and heal a lot of this old energy that's kind of stuck in trauma outside of time and space, that's no longer valid. So we can use these records to go in and heal the past so that we can change the future.
One question I do have is in regards to guardian angels. Because in the first hour you talked about hearing little voices. I have heard what I like to call my soul voice. I'm not sure if it's the guardian angel or the soul voice. That's just my terminology on it because I try and put things in a blue-collar way. Are guardian angels then with us, walking us down that spiritual path that we are supposed to be heading on?
Well, they are always there. Each and every person on earth has at least 3 guardian angels, and they're not the archangels. They're not the big, angels, but we all have 3 guardian angels, and they are here to help us. And it's important that we ask for that help. Because, again, these beings that are not embodied can only help us when we invite them in. That's kind of part of the soul contract. So we have to ask our Akashic Record keepers to help us, and that's why they've given us these keys, their sacred prayers to open the record so that we can unlock the door and walk in and say, help me, please. What can I know about this? What is blocking me from, creating more money, or from finding a relationship, a supportive relationship, or why do I have so much pain and trauma with my parents? What is that about? And we can find and learn that this is, again, they might be past life karma that we want to work through. They may be soul contracts that are misunderstood on one person's part or the other. But these guardian angels, everybody has at least 3. Some of us have more. And we also have our own 12+ Akashic Record keepers. And some of us have healing masters and other beings and energies. There's lots of them out there, right? And so they're really here to help and support us.
Let me get to Tripp's question here. He is asking, Lisa, do you think there is a connection between the Göbekli Tepe, Mayans, and Akashic Records?
Yes, I actually do. So here's kind of an interesting story that the Akashic Masters told me a long time ago, is they said that the Mayans were the Akashic Record keepers on Earth. And when humanity really started to misuse the Akashic energy and information, like I talked about a little, I think, in the first hour, where they were using it to win wars and find people's gold or gems or, things like that. When we really started to use it out of integrity, the Akashic Record keepers, who were also the Mayans, who are also from the Pleiades, pulled the vibration of the Akashic Records far enough away from Earth so that the average humans, the kind of denser, muggles who were just going for the gold or for winning the war, for their own fun, so the Mayans, Pleiadians, pulled the vibration of the Akashic Records away from the Earth so that it was hard to access unless you were a very high energy spiritual being. So yeah, I actually do believe that they are connected. So I believe that there are a couple of physical records on the planet. I don't think anyone has found them yet. I do believe that there's one down in kind of Mayan land somewhere down in the southern Yucatan. I believe there's one in Egypt somewhere, because I believe the other great record keepers are the Syrians. So the Pleiadians and the Syrians are part of the great record keepers also. And there's another one somewhere else that seems to be, I don't know, somewhere around Spain or somewhere around Europe. But none of them have been found yet. So we'll see if they get found physically or if they're really still more etheric and energetic. I really don't know, but that's what they're telling me.
Joe's question is, does anybody's Akashic Record ever say you're a jerk when you will die, or you're going straight to hell, or something along those lines?
No, not really. So, that's a great question. So actually, because the record keepers are pure love and divine souls, they don't tell us those sorts of things. They may, so here's the kind of the way it usually works for most of us, is that if we're starting to access our own Akashic Records, we're already on a spiritual path. We've probably already done quite a bit of healing and are actually more ancient souls. So we're usually not in that world or that realm of, totally being a jerk. Although they might say it as it is if you're really messing up, but they also say there is no such thing as hell. There's lots and lots of realms, and humans do create their own hell in some of the other realms, but it's not, the religious idea of heaven and hell. Mm-hmm. So, no, we don't quite get that kind of answer.
We're going to try and sneak in one more question before we go to break here.
Okay.
And this one comes from Dawn in Edmonton. Is there a way to know that you are done learning or don't have to keep coming back? Or is it our existence just one life after another?
Yeah, they actually do tell us sometimes that, and I'm finding this more and more, honestly, is that people have come to complete all of this karma. So what appears to be this really hard, challenging life that we were talking about is your soul wanting to finish all this karma, learn all these lessons, love and support all these people so you don't have to come back anymore. And they'll tell us that. So, we can get that information. I have found myself telling more than one client that that's part of their, what's going on in their challenging life is that, they really are these big, shiny, beautiful souls who wanted to finish everything up so they can make a different choice. So we're not stuck forever.
Oh, thank goodness. Some of us were wondering when the hell this first one would end. Gee whiz. I can honestly say that before I had my son, I'd always pictured that I would go around 75, but I channeled my son one day when he was still in the womb, and they gave me an extra 10 years. I'm pretty happy about that. Lisa Barnett is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Her website, AkashicKnowing.com. Once again, AkashicKnowing.com. I highly suggest you check it out because there's a lot of knowledge there, man, that we got to figure out. And you can also get her book online, From Questioning to Knowing, 73 Prayers to Transform Your Life. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. Oh, go ahead, Lisa.
Let me just say there's also 3 free gifts if you want to go download some meditations, some prayers of self-love, and some guided visualizations on my website.
Awesome. Go get them. AkashicKnowing.com. You are listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We will be back with more SOR right after this.
We're getting strange on Saturday nights. Hi there, this is Dave Cruz, and each Saturday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I will take you on a tour of the weird and obtuse on Spaced Out Saturdays, from aliens to Sasquatch and every tinfoil hat in between. We got you covered. Join us at spacedoutradio.com for Spaced Out Saturdays. See you there.
Not ready for bed on Saturday night? Right after Spaced Out Saturdays, hop on over to S4 with Corey Ruiz and me, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. With S4, there are no limits to what we try and uncover. From government conspiracies to helping clean up the paranormal, no topic is safe on S4. We get to the heart of the matter, of the subjects you want to learn more about. So tune in on S4 starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, only on spacedoutradio.com.
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Would you like someone you can trust to look into it? We have just the place. The SOR Sightlines Report is the place for you to find answers. Whether it's Bigfoot, UFOs, Dogman, ghosts, aliens, or anything strange, the Sightlines Report will get you connected with one of our expert researchers to find out what's going on. All of your personal information is kept 100% confidential. The SOR Sightlines Report, a place for you to find the answers you need. Only at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there. I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witowski's Strange Days.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories, from alien encounters to the latest conspiracies. You won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Do you want to know the truth? Do UFOs exist? Are aliens real? Are the governments hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO seekers, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow along with us as we journey across the United States, visiting UFO hotspots and alien hotspots, trying to document the UFO phenomenon. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
It's Cosmic Sundays with me, Elizabeth Anglin, in Cosmic Passport. Let me take you down a 3-hour spiritual journey where we will get into everything from ET contact to Psychic Sundays. It's a journey of listening and learning together with some of the best professionals in their fields. You can tune in to Cosmic Passport at spacedoutradio.com every Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio. and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, the ET Connection with our Keith Andrews. It happens the first Friday of the month, so if you have extraterrestrial questions, come on in and visit with old Keith and I. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. Great to have you with us as well. We are also live on KTLK, The Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas. And if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell decided to show up fashionably late, and he's dropped the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Pausiloquent. Pausiloquent is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets a password each and every night, right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on social media, you can do so on Twitter, at Spaced Out Radio. Use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio if you want to connect live with me during the show as well. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can also join us for live chat in the SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook. All you got to do is sign in for that one. We're also on Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. You can also find us on iHeartRadio. Tune us in on TuneIn, TalkStream Live. Download and subscribe to our iTunes channel. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. You can rock out to some Bumblefoot. You can also shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. Read The Encounter online or check out video footage from UFO Seekers and Contact TV and so much more. Everything at spacedoutradio.com. Hour number 3, we're making a little bit of a change in guests tonight. The beautiful, eloquent, talented, and enigmatic Corrine DeWinter from PurplePlates.com is joining us tonight. Corrine, how are you?
I'm okay. How are you, Dave?
I am good. So before the show tonight, you actually had a live poetry reading.
Yes, I did.
Now, for people who don't know, you're actually an award-winning poet and author.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to share with us what you read?
Well, I'm not going to read it all to you guys tonight, but
Ouch.
I mean, it was good because the crowd really was, I mean, this is a community that I read in that was just so awake and so tuned in. And we talked about the Vietnam War and we talked about a lot of stuff. So it was really cool, you know, so I was happy, very happy.
Excellent. Excellent. You are so talented when it comes to your writing, and I highly suggest that anybody who is looking for great books, find them from Corrine. She is phenomenal with her talents. I cannot speak highly enough. I have read them myself, some of her writings, and it was absolutely amazing. So that's just my opinion.
Thank you, Dave.
Joe wants to know, in the chat room on Spreaker, in a past life, were you married to him? And did you poison him?
It's funny that he said she poisoned me because my roommate, who's a male, actually thought I poisoned him a couple weeks ago with mushrooms.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And I was like, what? You know, if I wanted you dead, you'd be dead already. I mean, I wouldn't poison anybody. You know what I mean? Whatever. It was funny, though. You know what I mean? But he was serious. But, no, I didn't poison him. And I don't think I poisoned Joe in a past life either. Let's face it, Joe. You got strangled by your own hair.
Joe has amazing hair. Amazing hair. I'm growing mine out.
Yes.
I've never grown my hair out in my life. And right now it looks like I have an absolute mop on the top of my head.
But it's like, it's not that even long yet. So you have a whole way to go.
I'm almost 4 inches long on the top.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm measuring it right now. Almost 4 inches long on top. I got a long ways to go. I got about another foot to go, 1.5 feet to go before I'll be satisfied. I want to try this out. I have to tell you, Lisa Barnett, who was our guest for the first 2 hours tonight, I was amazed by just listening to her, and I actually got caught up a couple of times. See, the beauty of this show, what a lot of people don't understand, is when I talk to the guests beforehand, and I talk to every guest beforehand before I do the show. You know this. You've been a guest on the show before, and you will be again on November 2nd. I have this thing that I do where I don't like talking about that night's topics with the guest because I want to hear it fresh, just like all of you out there.
Right.
And so when I am doing the show, I'm hearing it fresh. I'm not having a pre-interview with the guest where we are going over a bunch of facts and then it's like, oh, damn, after the show you have hindsight being 20/20 and you're like, why didn't I ask that question? We talked about it beforehand. I never want that to happen. No. And sometimes I get caught up in the listening of the guests. And I happened to do that a couple of times tonight. You guys probably noticed where I was a little late turning my microphone back on because I've never done an Akashic Records show. And I don't know whether or not I believe in the Akashic Records, probably because I'm kind of a God guy, okay? And, but it's interesting how she put it all together. And your question where you had asked in regards to how do you know she's telling the truth? And when she came out and said, I don't know, this is just what's been given to me, I thought that was relevant because even though she believes this is happening, she still has that skepticism of being unsure that she can't know 100%. There's no way any of us can know 100%. What are your thoughts?
No, exactly. And I loved that she said that. She said, I can't, I'm not going to tell you that this is the absolute truth because I myself don't know that. And that is the first, when people say they know everything, when people call themselves an expert, there are no experts, okay? We're all learning as we go. And this whole topic of paranormal, supernatural, UFO, everything, it's a wide open field. We're so learning about spirit and everything else. And so that's what I really liked about her. I did not hear the first hour. What I heard of the second hour, I really liked. And I thought she was right on with what she was saying.
I thought she was amazing. And she asked after in the break if she could come back. And I said, yes, absolutely. Because, it's funny because before when I was talking to her on the phone, she goes, did you get my media kit with the questions? And I said, no. I said, we're not going to be using those tonight. And she goes, why not? I said, because I'm a journalist. And I think it's pretty cheap when talk shows ask their guests to provide questions.
I agree.
I said, so we're just going to run with it and see where it goes. And she was like, okay, that sounds like fun. But what an amazing person. I mean, what you missed in the first hour, which I thought was hilarious. I mean, she was just so real. She was talking about how her life in the late 60s, growing up into the 70s as a teenager, it was all about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and peace and free love. It was fantastic. I had a little bit of a red face, I'm not going to lie. This is where you turn your microphone on. Did I lose you? Did we lose Corrine? Oh, we did. Skype is acting up here. We're trying to get Corrine back here. But I thought that was very interesting in regards to what she was saying in regards to, being very open and affluent with the questions that we had. Almost like she knew we weren't going to be getting anything. We knew that she is, that she was a little bit troubled. Corrine, if you hear me, I'm trying to get you back here online. This is where I love Skype. Do we have you back, Corrine? I'm not hearing her. We're going to remove her. We're going to re-add her on there. So, anyhow, while we try and bring Corrine back, the Akashic Records, do you buy them? Do you not? What is your call on that? I'm curious to see what you guys thought. I'm curious to see what you guys thought in regards to it. You know? I mean, because here's the thing. If you believe in the Akashic Records, does that make you question whether or not there is some issue with believing in God, or believing in what we have been taught throughout life? Corrine's trying to call me on my cell phone. Let's see if we got her here on speaker. Corrine, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
We're trying to efforting to get you back onto the computer system here.
Can you hear me, though?
Through my cell phone, yes.
Oh, okay.
And I'm having to move my cell phone to the microphone so the people can hear you. So I'm going to hang up on you here, and I'm going to try and bring you back in on my computer, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right. Gotta love Skype. You have to love Skype. Yes, Skype is so much fun. It really adds to the whole dimension of the show, doesn't it? Hi, Corrine.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, good.
Yeah. I love Skype. Now, you know Blog Talk Radio was bought by Spreaker.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so everybody is hoping and praying that the one good thing about Blog Talk Radio was the phone lines. The phone lines were good.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody who's on Spreaker is hoping that they go with the phone lines there. Anyways, I asked while we were efforting to get you back on whether or not, you know, if you go with the theory of the Akashic Records, if it actually, you know, makes you question your theory on God. So I just want to get to some of the comments. John says, I'm surprised you don't believe in the Akashic Records, Dave. I'm not sure if I do or not. I'm a God guy. Do you believe in them?
You know what? God has everything to do with the Akashic Records. I don't know where you got the idea that, I mean, I can't say for sure, of course, but the idea of the Akashic Records is right in tune with God. So I'm not sure where you're coming from with that idea.
Well, the reason why is I had asked her, maybe you didn't hear this, I said, you know, biblically speaking, if God knows the time, date we're born and going to die and everything we're going to do, where we're going to screw up and everything like that, does that tie into what the Akashic Records say for us and our path? And she didn't seem to have a correlation in that.
Okay. Interesting. I mean, so when you say God, what are you talking about, Dave? Like, what do you think God is?
To me? We're getting deep tonight. We're getting deep tonight. Corrine de Winter, Into the Deep on Spaced Out Radio. I believe that there is a creator of all. I am, you know, even though I'm not religious, I am very spiritually inclined to believe that there is a God as what would be entailed in Christianity. And I am a big Jesus guy as well, even though I've been questioned lately on whether or not I am, and said that I need more Jesus in my life by people who don't really like my ghost hunts around this town.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's where I am. I am a firm believer that, and I have no problem saying I am a creationist. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't push my theories on anybody. So that's why I'm a little uncomfortable with that question right now.
Well, I mean, if you're going to say the Akashic Records are already written, that's a little bit... Because if we have free will, they're not written.
Well, she did say due to free will, if I'm paraphrasing her correctly, she did say that even though the Akashic Records are written, free will can change the path that you go on.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, so I still can't really get a handle on what the Akashic Records are there for.
Me either.
Yeah.
I need more research into it. I really do. You know, it's something that I need to study up a little bit more. And that's why I was wanting Lisa to come on to really, teach me. I have no problem in saying how naive I was in regards to this subject.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right. And I think she's great to learn, like for you to learn from. Oh, darn it. Okay. And, here's the thing. Everything she said that I heard outside of the Akashic Records and what they mean, which I still couldn't get a handle on, everything she was saying is right on time with what I believe in also. Just like the whole, universe, what's happening in the universe, the struggle, the turmoil, how each of us are questioning why we're here, that kind of thing. I understand that completely. So that's what I liked about what she was saying,
Absolutely. Absolutely. She's a brilliant woman. I am very, very invested in bringing her on again in the next few months to learn more, because I do want to learn about this. I think it's important as we discover our own spirituality, each and every one of us, if we choose to do that, that we have to open up our minds to see what is up with some of these theories, like the Akashic Records. Because I really don't know. And I'm not saying that to be rude. I did learn a little bit tonight. But for me, I can honestly say I was a little confused, not by what she was saying, but because my mind just could not comprehend what she was saying, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yes. And I'm a little surprised that she had canned questions for you, or, whoever her handler is.
It's in her media kit.
Okay. I mean, maybe those were merely suggestions on what to ask, because a lot of interviewers aren't like you, Dave. They won't come up with their own questions. They want to know what to ask and all that. So, right on. I love the way you do interviews, because, like, I know I've talked to you before about this. You're not thinking of what you're going to ask. You're going off what is happening at the moment. I'm going to ask what's happening at the moment,
Exactly.
And that's important, I mean, I get tired of listening to canned questions that everybody has asked and that they've answered a million times. Show me your scars and what you're doing right now. That's what I want to know.
Bingo. You get the point. The point. Hello, Corinth, in the chat room. I forgot to type it in. So we'll just say it. Hello, Corinth. So anyhow, you have been practicing and dealing with your own spirituality here over the last 18 months or so. And what have you learned about yourself as you have delved into your own spirituality?
Okay, what I've really learned mostly is to listen to my own intuition. And that is not as easy as it sounds, okay? A lot of us aren't listening to our inner selves, which is ourself. You know what I mean? Like, it's ourself, but it's our inner being self that knows better, our higher self that knows better than our personality in this world know. So I've learned that to listen to my intuition, to my inner voice, and also to realize that, man, lighten up. You know, not everything works out, but even if it doesn't work out, it's fine. You know what I mean? Like, I've gone through so much tragedy at this point in my life, but it's like, oh my God, it's okay. It's really okay. You know, no matter what you go through, you come out the other side and you keep going and keep moving. That's the bottom line. So that's what I've learned.
Well, and I understand that, and that's why I asked Lisa. You know, there are so many people who do a lot of good. You know, they drive the speed limit. They hold doors open for people. They say please and thank you, and, you know, they tip well, and, you know, they do everything that you are supposed to do to be a decent human being. Yet they walk around with this unfortunate black cloud over their head continuously.
Right.
Now, some would say that's karma from a previous life. Some would say that, you know, it's a learning experience that you're supposed to go through. Others will say, well, if they had no luck at all, they'd be better off.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You know, because it's better than the bad luck. You know, so, I mean, there's so much that people are dealing with on a daily basis. And, you know, in the end, it's really hard for people to stay positive, especially today, when you're trying to do the right things, and no matter what, you're getting screwed over.
Mm-hmm. Right. And to that, I have to say, I mean, being one of the people that have been screwed over and have gotten, whatever, I'm still going through it. But you know what? You guys, it's like, man, shit. I just swore. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's a double marker right there. That'll be 50. That'll be 50 cents in your swear jar.
I'm sorry, Dave. What I'm saying is, like, we all, even if the people that you see that are supposedly living a carefree life, that don't have any troubles, everybody has their own hell. Everyone does. I don't care who you are. And I think that the things that happen to us in life, like all the challenges we have, all the hardships, all the sorrows, they do have meaning and they have a purpose. I do believe that, and more to the point, I have to believe it, because there is no way that we would be on this earth not going through what we're going through right now, seeing all these tragedies, the Las Vegas thing, what a freaking shame that is. And, whatever happened, we don't even know the whole story behind it, but I'm not saying any conspiracy thing, because I think that's, like, irresponsible at this point. But, I mean, everything, all the shootings, all the weather things that have put people out, and everything that we're going through, it does have meaning and purpose, as we do. We are here. Like, if you ask yourself, and I hear this from different people every day, because I've been giving readings, and a lot of people say, why am I still here? Why am I here? You're here for a purpose, and it has meaning. You can check out if you want to, but that's not really going to help anything in the long run. The thing, you have to remember, you're here and we are all one. Not to sound like a hippie, but we are all connected. And
that was very hippie, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I can't help it. But I think our being here overall has a meaning, a big meaning, and a purpose. And we're all meant to be here right now. And we're in a hell of a time period right now. And we're blessed also to be here at this time, I think. Even though it feels like hell, but we're pretty lucky to be seeing this and be part of it. And you know what? Get on the other side of it and be part of the peace and the healing that will happen. So, I mean, sorry, I know I sound like a hippie, but I'm sorry.
I had one person on my Facebook, you're scrolling through the feed, and they were talking about how the earth must be heaven. And I put on there point blank, I said, if this is heaven, I'd hate to see what hell looks like.
No kidding.
With everything that's going on in this world. I mean, gee whiskers, can we really take any more? And I'm not trying to get into anything. We're going to get into the Las Vegas thing in a couple of weeks once everything kind of calms down and, people start to get back to their regular lives. I think that's fair in what we are doing here. But, I mean, the whole point that I'm getting at is, how much more spiritually can people take? I mean, people are at their wits' end, whether it's financially overburdened, whether it is, work. I mean, nobody works a 40-hour work week anymore. I mean, I remember recently at one of my job, I got hauled into the office because I left at closing time.
Wow.
Said I wasn't working long enough.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, that's the truth of it. How long are we supposed to work? We're all tired. Ever notice how tired everybody is? Remember, like when we were kids, or even in our 20s or 30s, nobody seemed this tired.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Nobody seemed this tired. And, you go on vacation, and maybe a lot of you are like this as well, but I've noticed that the day before my vacation ends, I would immediately have that entire stress ball in between my shoulders all of a sudden show up again. Right. Because, getting back to everyday life where there's bills and mortgage payments and vehicle payments, insurance payments, and whatever type of payment that other else is out there, Mm-hmm. Now, granted, we do a lot of it to ourselves. We've become a have-now society, and let's put it all on credit.
Right.
Instead of living within our means.
Exactly. You said it all when you said that.
Exactly.
People don't live within their means. People are maxed out on their credit cards. And here's the thing. When you choose to live simply, I live very simply, okay? I shop at Goodwill. I buy day-old stuff at the grocery store. Anyways, the point is this. Why are material things and 4 vacations a year and a house, a vacation house by the ocean, why are these like people's main objectives? That's ridiculous. You know what I mean? Do you know what I'm saying, Dave? Dave, you must have thoughts of that kind of life.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I was sitting around with a buddy of mine about 2 years ago, and he made low 6 figures. At that point, I was making low 6 figures. Just over $100,000. Very good living. Very good living. And him and I were talking about this. And the industry I work in, I got to be careful because I never discuss my daytime career. But I see people spending money all the time. And I see people who are making half of what I make. They have the $800-900 a month truck payment. They have the ATVs. They have the travel trailer. They're going to Mexico twice a year. And in between, they scrunch in Hawaii. And I'm looking at all of this, and they've got the mortgage and they've got everything, going for them. And I'm thinking, how do you do it? Because here I was making just over $100,000 a year. And yes, I have nice vehicles. Okay, but I don't have any toys. I can't afford a vacation. My credit cards are maxed out even though I don't spend. And that's a reality for a lot of people. A lot of people.
Yeah.
Indeed. And that's where I'm lost. I'm absolutely lost. Because I'll tell you, I don't know, maybe it's just the way I parent. Having kids really didn't cost me any more money. My ex-wife cost me money. But having kids, I never really noticed it in my food budget or the clothing budget or anything along those lines.
Right.
So, I don't get it. I don't get it.
But you see, I heard someone say once, the more you have on the outside, the less you have on the inside. And I think that is so apt.
But you know what? I will tell you this. Here's a strange coincidence. I have talked to a number of people, and I talk to a lot of people, Corrine.
Right.
I have noticed that the more I have been delving into my spirituality, and I've asked other people if they've had this happen too, when they went down this road. I said, the more you delve into your spirituality, I said, what happened to your financial income? And almost every single person, like I've asked that question about, not often, but maybe 20, 25 times to people. And 99% of them said, my income went down.
Mm-hmm.
Substantially. Like, I'm not talking, $1,000 or even $5,000 a year. I'm talking $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a year for people. That is a huge chunk of change out of one's budget.
Right.
I can tell you this year, compared to what I made in 2013, will be a $70,000 difference. 2017 to 2013. From 2013, where I was just getting into this, starting to figure out my own experiences and having them happen more and more, to 2017, has been a $70,000 turnaround for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tough pill to swallow.
I know. Well, when you're used to that,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to clarify something, though. Here in Canada, we are taxed so heavily that if you're making $100,000 a year up here in Canada, it's probably the equivalent of about a $60,000 a year job in the U.S.
I was going to say, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So even though the number says six figures, if we were in the U.S., it's a mid-five figures number.
Right.
So I just want to clarify that.
Yeah. Now, take me. I make $300,000. No, I'm kidding.
Yes. Why doesn't that surprise me? Why doesn't that? Because poets make so much money.
No.
Let me ask you this. Being a poet.
Mm-hmm. I make $2 a year.
How do you feel about making more money when you're dead than when you're alive?
That's what I said. Some person said to me tonight, oh, poets, make a lot of money. I go, yeah, get out of here. Show me a poet with a lot of money and I'll show you a dead person, is what I said. You know what I mean? Like, nobody makes money as a poet, ever. Okay, even if you win the poet laureate thing or something, it's like $10,000. You know what I mean? Or whatever. And it's like, all right, whatever. What? That's going to carry you for a year, maybe, and not even. And so, I mean, yeah, you don't make any money. Being a poet and being a writer, if you're not Stephen King, is a labor of love. But you have to do it because you're an artist and you feel these things. You got to get them out. So that's fine. I always knew, my mother, how much money did you make off of that? None, Mom. I didn't make any money, but it's okay. You know what I mean? That's not what I'm looking for in my writing. I'm looking for people to read my stuff and get it, and thankfully, I'm not selling a lot of books. I'm not saying that, but thankfully I've gotten letters and very proud of what I've written. And that's the way it is,
No, I get that. It is a labor of love. It's even what we're doing here, even though we are trying to build this into something special. Whether or not it goes that way, only time will tell. But at some point, you do have to question, whether or not hard work actually pays off. And spiritually speaking, does it even work? Is it even worth the time and the effort? I don't know. I don't have the answer to that.
I think it is. Because when you're doing your soul work, okay, and I call writing and anything artistic, that's your soul. You know what I mean?
I get that. And you know what? I would agree to you to a point. I would agree to a point where I would say that for a lot of people out there, including myself, the whole soul issue and the hot soup for the soul conversation, that doesn't put food on my table. That doesn't put clothes on my kid's back. That doesn't keep my mortgage paid or something along those lines. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It just doesn't do it. It doesn't do it. And so, for a lot of people, is the sacrifice worth it? For me, I question it every day. I really do.
Right.
I'm going to open up here for a second because I don't usually open up. I'm usually pretty guarded. Right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Okay? I put almost 3 years into this show. Actually, 3 years on the 2nd of this month, so just 3 days ago, is when the concept of Spaced Out Radio was created. So for 3 years, I've been working every day on this show. Granted, we are getting bigger, we are getting more notice, and everything along those lines. But it's like a hockey game or a football game. You complain about the players' salaries. You see these basketball players. There's a basketball player in New Orleans who just signed somewhere in the South, just signed a 5-year, $205 million contract or $250 million contract. It's $50 million a year. Okay? Mm-hmm. And then you look at football players making $20 million a year, baseball players making $20 million a year, hockey players making $10 million a year. And we think, they just get it to play a game. How is anybody worth that type of money to play a game?
Right.
You don't understand the commitment. Okay? That is the demand for their talent, that they get paid on their talent. And when someone questions the commitment, that's where I have an issue with anybody who does anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, I'm going to use hockey statistics here because I know them the best. Okay, for every hockey player playing in Canada right now, and there's about 300,000 to 500,000 people, or kids alone, across the country playing hockey. Out of that 300,000, 0.687% of them will make the NHL to play one game in the NHL.
Right.
0.67. But yet there's kids all over the place putting in the effort, the commitment, the hockey schools, the extra training, the private instructions, everything. My neighbor Tony across the street, the firefighter whom I've talked many, many times about, his son is a hockey player. And his son and I will go outside and I'll teach his son how to shoot. Well, time may not cost money, but it still has value. So when you look at everything that everybody kind of puts in to it, whether it's hockey, baseball, acting, this show, or whatever it is, eventually you want to see the payoff. You know what I'm saying? Because if you put in the proper effort and have the proper ability and hopefully the God-given talent, that maybe you can make a career out of it and be taken care of. Right?
Oh,
but sometimes there's a lot of people out there, and I've been through this numerous times in my life, where you can get to the door. You can see through the door. You could be invited inside. And the minute you go to take that first step, that door slams right on your face. And a lot of people, myself included, are sick and tired of having that happen. Right?
So the point is this. Is it in your blood to do what you're doing? Is it a passion of yours?
I would think so.
Okay, so if it's a passion of yours, all of that not making enough money for it to support you completely, someone once said to me, yeah, my passion has become a hobby because I couldn't make a living at it. But I disagree and I kind of disagree with you, forgive me, but I think that if it's in you and it's like it's giving you pleasure, no matter how much money you're making or not making, it's something you would do anyways. Like I would write anyways. I would read my writing and do this stuff I would make art anyways. It's not, but I know, but your commitment is really
absolutely
something else.
What is the value of the finished product?
Right.
That's what it comes down to in anything in life. What is the value of the finished product? Mm-hmm. Right? And can you get someone that special set of eyes, or in our case, that special set of ears to listen, if they're even still out there, to say, hey, we need this.
Right.
You hear people bitch and complain all the time about shows like The Voice or, The Shark's Den. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or, whatever it is. People trying to get their opportunity because they don't know how. Mm-hmm. Or they don't know where to go. So this is their way to see if they have that ability. And I think, when it comes, if we focus just on this show, question is, where can it go?
Well,
because
I will say that.
One second here. Because people, whether it's yourself listening, or if you're on Twitter, or any of the social media networks, or in the chat rooms, or you're just out there listening right now, driving around, because you're looking for something to drive. Number one, what is your value? And number two, what you're only listening to is the finished product.
Right.
You're not seeing the blood, sweat, and tears that goes in to that finished product.
Right.
And that, I can tell you right now, is what causes my stress.
Right. But I think, Dave, forgive me, but I think that you're looking past a lot of monumental success that you have gotten in all of this time. And it really, I've seen you grow since the beginning, and it's amazing. and you don't realize that so many other people try to do this and they're not as far as you are right now. So, I mean, I don't know. I think, I would venture to say that you're a little bit hard on yourself because you think that it's not there where you think it should be at this point, but it's a hell of a lot further than your beginning.
I hate you right now. I hate you right now.
Here's the thing. Give yourself a freaking break and realize how much you have accomplished at this point.
Oh, I'm very thankful. Trust me, I'm very thankful. I've caught some very, very cool breaks. Mm-hmm. Very cool breaks. Some have been earned, others taking a chance. Like with Bumblefoot as our music. Took a chance. Said, hey, do you remember me? Yeah, man. Well, this is what I do. Can I use your music? Yeah, let's come up with a deal that works for both of us. Wonderful.
Right.
Right? I mean, there, certain things just fall in your lap. And I am a firm believer that, sometimes you put it out there, it actually works. Getting the team that we have together right now is working.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
But at some point, I look at myself and I think, okay, right now, old Davey is on stress leave from his daytime job. I am, moonlighting doing this because it doesn't stress me out. It actually helps my stress.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
But as much as I love moonlighting, I have to also realize that when decision time comes, I can't go back to 16 hours a day.
Right.
Not that I'm leaving the show. Because if I see progression, I'm going to continue doing this, man. This is my love. This is my passion.
Right.
But I have to think. I have a little guy who likes it when Daddy puts him to bed. He likes it when Dad, crawls into bed with him and we sing songs until he falls asleep in my arms.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get to do that. When I'm working on the show, I don't get to do that. Right? I don't get to go for family dinners out because I'm always on a curfew. I don't get to go to Halloween parties because I'm always working. That's what weighs on me.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear that.
And when you look at it, 16 hours a day for almost 3 years. Now, I realize there's people who've done it a heck of a lot more. And God bless them. It is tough. But you know what? I never knew what the term workaholic was until I got addicted to work. Because I've worked around enough millionaires and even a couple of billionaires, okay, to know that hard work does pay off. But for some of us, Corrine, for some people out there, and you've met them, I would consider you one of them, okay, for some people, the harder they work, the more they fall. And I'm not saying we're falling, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to turn this into a depressive conversation, right? But there comes a reality. Like, if hard work is supposed to pay off, when does it? How does it? And what steps are you missing that you're not seeing? That's the tricky one. What steps are you missing that you're not seeing?
I think you're analyzing this too much. I'm sorry. But I have to say, it's like I have a friend. Let me just hear me out for a second. I have a friend who is a little bit out of his mind. But anyways, he says he has all this bad luck, right, Dave? And he says, I'm a good person. Why don't good things happen to me? I'm a good person. I'm like, are you crazy? Just because you're a good person, do you think good things happen to you? Yeah, I mean, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, that's not the way the universe works. And working hard does not necessarily mean you're going to get a reward. I'm sorry.
Hey, I fully get that. Bill Cardwell, I'm getting depressed now. You're about to go into maple syrup season, Bill. How can you be depressed? You were just months away from maple syrup season.
Bill's word for the day, depression.
Exactly. Your new password for the day is depression. Exactly. Joe is saying, I never know if it's Joe or his hair that's talking to me, because they're both like two separate entities. He says, suck it up, Dave. My dad was a fireman who worked 24-hour shifts. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
I get that.
Right. And probably, like, if Joe told you the story about his dad, it's probably, I'm guessing it wasn't a happy ending to his life or whatever happened. I don't know. But, I mean, it's like nothing equates to anything else in life. I mean, really, let's face it, man. We work hard. We're good people. It doesn't freaking matter. Things happen. You know what I mean?
And then Bill puts, and the
we
Leafs
can only roll with it,
and,
you know?
And Bill puts in the chat room, and the Leafs are going to win the cup. They are not going to win. They are not going to win. They're going into year 51 of their lackluster seasons. You're going to get knocked out in the first round while my Oilers hoist the cup this year. Yes, and Connor McDavid is better than Austin Matthews. Sorry, little hockey talk there. Had to fire that one in there.
Hockey talk.
Hockey
It's
talk.
like honky tonk, but it's hockey talk.
No, it's real stuff here. Real stuff. The real sport where athletes don't bend at the knee for a national anthem.
Really?
Real sports.
Let's not talk about taking the knee. Let's not talk about it.
All right. Robert White says from Australia, he says, Corrine is right. You are setting the standard that others are trying to attain. It will pay off. I appreciate that. I do.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I hope
Robert should know. He's been through a lot.
Right now, the only thing I want to pay off is my hair growing longer, because I want long hair. I'm not going to lie. I want long hair.
You will have it.
I'm growing it. You should see the mop. Hold on.
I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Hold on. There. Look at that. Look at that big mushroom on top of my head.
Oh my God.
Exactly. It's terrible.
What the?
I know. For those of you who don't know, I actually, because we're on Skype, I actually showed the camera of my hair to Corrine, and she is now about to hang up. Because that's the way she works.
No, I'm not.
Corrine, my beautiful friend, tell us about purple plates. We got about a minute and a half with you.
Oh, God. All right, purple plates. Are you still playing the commercial, Dave?
I got Mr. Bumblefoot playing in the background because we only got like 2.5 minutes left in the show.
All right. Whoever hasn't gotten a purple plate, please do. Please go to the website, purpleplates.com. You guys will be amazed. They're a miracle. And believe me, you're going to be happy. And if you're not happy, I'll give you your money back. But there's so much more to the purple plate. So go to the website, purpleplates.com. And you'll see all about it, or you read all about it, and you'll know more. Yeah, so
thank you.
That's that. Yeah.
Corrine, you hold on. I'm going to wrap this thing up.
Okay.
In the background, we hear Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio. He brings us in and takes us home every single night. Tomorrow night on the program, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time, our Keith Andrews is back with the ET Connection. It'll be the first time I talk to Keith since the Forest Moon Paracon. What a blast he is. He's got great hair as well. So make sure you tune on in at spacedoutradio.com. I want to say thank you to our guest in the first 2 hours, Lisa Barnett. AkashicKnowing.com is her website as we learned about the Akashic Records. And of course, Corrine DeWinter from PurplePlates.com hopping in hour number 3. Read her poetry. It's so worth it. It's beautiful. She is a word genius. And of course, to all of you out there on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio, in the chat rooms, and for those of you listening at home, we grow bigger and better and stronger every single night because you guys share our posts, you retweet us, you're on Facebook, you're talking about us, and that's all it takes, my friends, because together we own the night. I'll talk to you in 21 hours from now. I hope you'll join me. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Have a good one. Peace. Good night.